Guten Tag. Do you suck at learning vocabulary? Do you have no strategy on how to do that? Or you just like building cool stuff? Then you are in the right place, because today we are gonna tackle all of those things. If you're anything like me, then you don't like learning vocabulary. I'm currently learning Norwegian, and vocabs are the one thing really holding me back. And I think that's probably because I don't have a proper strategy or method to tackle them. I would repeat them once every couple of days and then forget about them again until Duolingo reminds me it's time again. But let's be honest, Duolingo alone isn't enough to learn a new language. So I remembered how I learned English when I was in school. And in Germany we have this box where the cue cards would be stored in, and you have like different gaps in them. And each gap represents a different time frame between repetition. So the idea is that you always repeat the vocabulary that you are about to forget, and that really makes it stick. And it worked pretty well for me, so that's what I'm gonna build. Is anyone else enjoying good tea? My partner got me into drinking tea and I love it. It's so great. I don't know how I went 25 years of my life without drinking tea. Also, look at this super cool mug. We found it in the Blue Mountains and I instantly fell in love with it. It's great. Also, if you don't understand the plan that I made, don't worry, me neither. For now we will just follow the cutting list and then make it up as we go. My flatmate's dog, called Mabel, decided to collect the cuddle tags halfway through, so obviously I had to stop everything and deliver. Look at those eyes. Can't stop now. It wouldn't be my build if I didn't had certain requirements for it. So of course it should look pretty, it should work as intended, and I want it to be mounted under my desk for easy storage, because my desk that I built is quite small and it's quite full, so I don't want more stuff on the desk. I want it to be like a drawer underneath the desk. We'll see how that goes. I decided to notch in the dividing pieces so they sit properly in place. The tricky part was definitely to cut them all evenly deep and not too deep, and to get the measurements just right so they're not too loose or not too tight, but also in the correct spot. At this point, I'm quite glad I'm working with pine, because it's nice and soft and it's forgiving. It makes this part definitely a little bit easier. Just like that, that looks pretty good. If you like these kind of build videos, please consider liking and subscribing to not miss any future videos. Also, if you have some feedback, I would love to read that in the comments below. After some sanding and adjustments, everything fits nicely together. So it's time to sand the inside to a nice finish. I also went ahead and put a bevel on all the edges that are gonna be exposed and sticking out near the top, because I really love how that looks. I've been doing that almost everything I've built so far. I just don't like the rounded edges as much. Like sometimes they fit better, but not often. Next up, I am preparing the sliding mechanism. Just like a drawer, the box will have two notches on the side where it will be held towards the table and it can slide along those notches. I couldn't use my saw for this like before because the piece was too long, so I had to use my cutter, and I had to be really careful not to apply too much pressure because I was cutting with the grain, and because it's pine it's really soft. I might have split it in half if I used too much pressure, but that luckily didn't happen. That slides quite nicely. It has a little bit of wiggle room, which is good, because that ensures it runs nice and smoothly over time, even if the wood starts to work a little bit and expand. Some quick sanding later and I was ready to stain the inside of the workpiece. Epic cleanup montage. Like with oiling, we need a dust-free surface to ensure a good finish. I'm going to use this Feast Watson proof tint in walnut. Mine is a little bit aggressive, which is why I had to sand it off a little bit afterwards again. Got too dark for me. Maybe next time I should dilute it somehow. And sanding it before the glue up is just so much easier because I don't have any tight corners I need to work the stain into. I just have nice flat surfaces. The only thing I needed to watch out for is to tape off the areas which will later be glued together, because wood glue won't hold to stained wood. After all that was dry, I gave it a quick sand, retaped it and put a healthy layer of the Scandinavian furniture oil on it. I really love how that looks, I use it on everything. "24 hours later, I can glue everything together." Thankfully I managed to make it work with the two clamps that I have. The top bits ended up way too dark for my liking, so I'll have to sand those a little bit more again and then reapply the oil, but that's an easy fix. While I was cutting out that finger hole, I realized that I will probably never use it, Because it's sitting right underneath the desk, it's easier for me to just reach around and pull it out from the bottom, but that's okay. So remember how I thought I managed to glue this up properly with only 2 clamps? Well, it didn't quite work out that way. The middle section on one side is just not connected at all, so I have to re-glue it while making sure everything stays straight, otherwise the sliding mechanism won't work as well anymore. While all of that dries again, I'm starting on the sliding system. It's a fairly easy design. I am cutting 6 equal pieces, glue them together, trim them off a little bit and sand it. I will also add a connection bar at the end, which ensures I have the correct distance for the drawer to work properly. And it will also work as a stopper block, so the box won't slide out the back. Gluing that in place was quite finicky though, because I had to make sure everything stays straight and parallel and doesn't warp. Very sketchy hanging on there. That works pretty well. Hopefully I don't have to re-glue this. A bunch of staining and oiling later and I was ready to attach it to my table. I marked out the position and attached one side first. Oh, table is dense. Then with the box in place, I screw the other side in so I have the perfect distance. Works like a charm and everything seems pretty stable. The drawer slides easily too, which is good. All in all, this project was quite fun. It took a lot longer than expected given how small it is, but the amount of time I had to wait for stain or oil to dry was just insane. And now, only time will tell if I actually get better at learning vocabulary. I sure hope so. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.